Good day, everybody. We're back. We just got a little lesson. We're going to go over some language things. I know I touched on it in some earlier videos, but I didn't really actually get into why it makes sense. And I think that's important to do. Like I said, there's so much stuff that I haven't covered because I'm just going off where my mind's at now. And actually, that's not even true because I've got notebooks full of material that I haven't even really scratched the surface on. So, but I've been focused on the forward progress of figuring out more of this science. So I just didn't take the time to really go over the basics. But we're going to go over some of that right now so we can clear up some things, especially on the wordplay stuff, because that's where people get a little bit taken aback. Like, well, it just sounds like people are just making stuff up and just trying to, just run with these ideas. And you can't do that, but it does have a basis in truth. So, let's start out by pointing out, okay, the names, the sacred names in the Bible and the earlier back you go are going to be closer to what it actually meant, okay? And so we have the dot, the line, and the circle. You always have to keep that in mind because that is literally the key to figuring out how the alchemical formula was issued from the mind of God. And when my conceptualization of the God mind breaking into right and half hemispheres and coming down the chain, that's only one way of describing it, okay? Different systems have different ways of describing it. So you could also describe it, okay, you could just say, okay, it's a head in profile, and then the Milky Way galaxy, when you're viewing it in a certain position, the Milky Way galaxy runs down almost like a spinal column from the Orion Nebula, okay? And you can conceptualize it like that as well. And then, of course, that's your sacrum bone is the three fused vertebrae in your lower spine. And then the rest of your vertebrae come up and obviously attach to the back of your skull, but there's 33 vertebrae there, and this represents the 33 degrees in Scottish Rite Freemasonry, okay? But it's all that same principle. No matter how you want to describe it, you can describe it in that way, or you can describe it as breaking the mind apart and putting back together. These are just metaphorical ways of describing it, but in a sense, it's not just metaphorical. It's actually literally true on a grand scale. No matter how you describe it, that same involutionary and evolutionary process is happening, and that's really what we're describing here. So, okay, first let's go over the days of the week, because I didn't really explain that in depth, and I want to do that right now. So the Divine Fiat, which issues from the mouth of God, which the fractal closest to us as far as what created our universe, is the Orion Nebula. Now, actually, if you want to get technical, the Jehovah or Saturn that's closest to us is the moon, okay? And we can cover that a little bit more. Remember what I said, everything recapitulates. It's just this process of Abra and Ham recapitulating. Remember how that happened. Saturn issued forth the sun. The sun threw off the moon, which was its lower elements, okay? Just think of this as a process of alchemy. And then, those lower elements were just sitting there. Nothing was really being done with them. Like, oh, geez, what do we do now? Well, then the sun issues forth what would be equivalent to its reproductive seed, its sperm, okay? And then it issues out and splits that moon, separating that moon and splitting it into, separating the gross from the subtle, and then splitting into the earth and the moon, which according to Steiner will someday recombine and go back up. And what I suspect, since this is the Mercury period, remember the Earth period is split in between the Mars period and the Mercury period. Mars splits, Mercury unites. So if we extrapolate that out, and according to Steiner, this will literally happen. So what I suspect is Mercury, the planet Mercury, or the forces of Mercury, whether it just be the repelling forces, because everything's magnetic. We live in an electromagnetic universe. So the forces of Mercury are probably going to force the moon to recombine with the Earth at some point. Okay? And then the rest of the process of alchemy can happen. Okay? So just to kind of get that out there. Okay, so the Divine Fiat is commemorated in the days of the week, but it's commemorated in the days of the week because that's actually how it happened in nature. Everything comes from nature. Saturday is Saturn. Okay? Saturn, God the Father. Sunday is Sun. Saturn Day, Sunday, Moon Day. Tuesday is Mars. That doesn't sound like Tuesday. How could we get Tuesday out of Mars? There was a god named Tuez, which was, I forget which culture, but that was their name for Mars. So that's why it's Tues. Okay. Wednesday, that's Woden. Woden's Day is where we got the name Wednesday. Okay. And that's the planet Mercury. Okay. Thursday is Jupiter or Zeus. Thursday, we get that from Thor. Thursday is Thor's day. Thor in the mythologies is equivalent to Jupiter or Zeus. Okay? Friday, Freya's day. Freya's day. Okay? Freya is equivalent to Venus. So that's where the days of the week come from. It is the alchemical formula which is spoken into manifestation by God the Father in many different gradations. All right, now I want to go back. Let's go back to the dot, the line, and the circle, and we understand that the dot is Saturn, the line is the sun, and the circle is the moon. Okay? This stands for Saturn is the mind. Okay? The mind. The sun is the heart. And the moon is the lower regions, the generative region, but also, as we said, it gets split. And our bodies are a perfect template to understand how creation happened, the steps of creation. It's still all commemorated in us. We are a symbol of it. So, Ab, Ra, and Ham, that commemorates that the first three creative processes in the Divine Fiat. Abraham, there was also a king that came right out of the same area of Abraham called Hammurabi. Hammurabi. Abraham Hammurabi. You can see the similarities. Some people might think this is arbitrary. It's not arbitrary. We have to remember that in ancient languages, a lot of times only consonants were used and they didn't put the vowels in their language. So when we compare these, and then sometimes people will raise the issue, well, this one has an extra letter, so it can't be the anagram of that. Well, sometimes vowels drop off too, okay? And that's not being arbitrary about it, but that's just the reality of how language works. Abraham is the inverse of Abraham, because remember, everything is a father-mother, okay? It's both. So Abraham is the inverse of Ham or Ab, okay? One is describing the father, son, mother concept. Okay, one is describing how reproduction happens from the male perspective, and then one is describing how it happens from the female perspective. Because remember, the lower takes part in the upper, where they meet in the Vesica Pisces. It's a father-mother. So you can describe it from the perspective of the mother being the beginning, or you can describe it from the perspective of the father being the beginning. It doesn't really matter. But Abraham is father, son, moon. And what that is the father, his son is his reproductive seed, and it fertilizes the moon, right? In the other way around, Hammurabi, Ham is the beginning, right? We go backwards. Ham, that's the mother. She's producing the baby out of her loins or her hams. Ham, is Ra. Ab, father. Okay? Hammurab. Remember, vowels are often interchangeable in the ancient world. Okay? And they've changed over time. But and Ra are the same thing. Okay? Abraham and Hammurabi lived in the city of Iraq, ancient Babylonia, Mesopotamia. It's called which means gold. Okay? But, so, if you look at this, it's the exact same thing. So you got mother giving birth to son, and then father issuing out, again, that's what the eye is. Think of the eye as a reproductive organ sending seed. Because that's really, when you go back and break down the languages, that's what this was all based off of. Ham, the mother, birthing the son, and then Ab, the father, issuing seed again to start the process all over again. Hammurabi or Abraham. It's just describing two different perspectives of the creative process. Hammurabi Isus, or Jesus. I and J's are interchangeable. Okay? So Ham gives birth to and then Ab fertilizes another egg, and it creates the son again. Hammurabi Isus, and on and on. Okay? So enough on that. I do want to talk, let's get into the name Israel. Israel. This is from the female perspective. Okay? Is Isis. Is, Ra, we know is the sun, and El was an ancient name for the father god or moon god. Remember, everything's a father-mother. The upper part is the father, the lower part is the mother. Okay? So, that's how that goes. Israel is literally the first three in the creative fiat. Isis, Ra, and El. And El is Jehovah. Okay? El was a name given to the father god by the ancient Hebrews. That was Jehovah. Israel. Isis, Ra, and El. We can also do it with Jeremiah. Jah the father, Re, the son, Maya, the moon. Maya is Mary. Okay? Jah, Re, Maya. Jah, Re, Maya. Okay? Same concept. So that's how it all works. And then the reason why it's backwards, like I said, it's all about perspective. It's all about perspective. Ra and El. Okay, here's a question. Is Ra-El Israel? Well, yes, remember the father and the son are one and the same. And remember, vowels are often interchangeable. And R's and L's are also interchangeable. Okay? I know that might not make sense, but check out, just look. We can prove this because over time languages change, and L's and R's are often swapped. Just not even purposely sometimes. Okay, so, and that's L and R is left and right. And they are just mirror images of one another. Okay, but they're the same. R's and L's. Think of the name Catherine. Catherine. Okay? Well, over time it became Kathleen, but it's the same name. So there's a little proof there on the concept that I'm talking about. And here we go once again. Now, as we're talking about this science, and this aurora is the crown of the king. Okay? Crown. Well, if you do the opposite, you switch the R to an L, you've got a clown. You no longer have a king, you have a clown. That's not arbitrary. What was the almost the equal and opposite of a king in ancient times? Was the clown, right? He was a dunce, he was a laughingstock, but he had almost as much power as the king. In some cases, even more, because he could get away with what he was saying because he was there to provide comedy. Okay? So if you don't have a crown, you're a clown. The equal and opposite. Okay? It's not arbitrary. Let's get into, let's see. Lucifer, that's the aurora. Okay? Satan is the lead. Lucifer, if you crack open the New Advent Catholic Encyclopedia, they're actually very honest about it in there. They say Lucifer means light, ultimate light, the glory of God. And Satan only represents that God in fallen form. Lucifer is not Satan. They're diametrically opposed to one another. Lucifer's light, Satan's darkness. Okay? Lucifer's the aurora, Satan is the lead. Gold lead. But just remember, this is an infinite chain, and the upper and lower take part in one another. So to us, we're trying to elevate our minds to that Luciferic aurora, but that partakes in the lead of the God above us. So we actually, if we can get past our own Luciferic aurora, then we share in the mind of the God above us, which is lead. That's why, see, this can be confusing, but that's why that's why the very top of humanity is lead, or is the lead of the lower being, but that's as high as we can get right now to actually be able to partake in the lower mind of that which is above us, okay? And that is actually the moon. The astral light from the moon, the light that gets reflected from the moon, it has an effect on our consciousness, just as much as, say, the sun. They're in balance. So that's the red ray and the blue ray of the spectrum coming down and filtering into our material sphere. And I will cover the spectrum at some time and how that all projects into reality. But I just want to do some of these things quick because I know I didn't really get into it in depth. Oh, and it's interesting that Lucifer, right? We know Lucifer is the angel of death, or the Lucifer spirits are the angels of death. But what is death? In that context, death is this life. What we call life, the spirit calls death. That's like them going to die if they have to go be entombed in matter. So Lucifer leads the soul into the material sphere. It leads. Okay, it was the Lucifer spirits that led us into the bodily form. Okay, that's the sons of God taking the daughters of men. Okay, spirit, matter. It leads or leads. It leads the spirit. It deadens the spirit until the spirit is awakened again, like a seed sprouting. Okay? And that's not arbitrary either. Lucifer leads or leads, led Saturn. Okay? And we are, according to Manly P. Hall, we only have 1/5 of the God ray that can reach us because we're at such a low declination. Remember the 5 processes. Okay? Only 1/5 of the God light can reach us. So we're at a severe disadvantage, but it can be done. We can put things back together again. This is interesting because it gets into why alcohol was used. Alcohol, they call it spirits. Well, very precisely, it's the alcohol acts as a Lucifer spirit here on Earth. Okay? Fire water. That's what the Indians called it. Fire water. Lucifer spirits are the fire spirits who led us into bodily form and opened our eyes and gave us that I am individuality. Okay? Alcohol is spirits. Alcohol is looked at as a deadener, right? Not many people really think alcohol produces many good things. And it's because it deadens the spirit. And remember, we're operating only with 1/5 of the God ray that can reach us here on Earth. And it's very interesting that alcohol is most commonly sold when it's pure alcohol in fifths to deaden that 1/5 of the God light that we receive. Now think about the Indians and how alcohol was used to discombobulate them and get them to sign treaties that they didn't really want to sign. Okay, they were very spiritual people, but alcohol was used to deaden that spirit and to discombobulate them. So that's just interesting to know. See if there's anything I didn't cover in this one that I wanted to. And I think that's it for this one. This one will be a little bit shorter one, and I'll try to maybe keep them a little bit shorter and just jam-packed from this point on, because it takes me a long time to upload these. I think the next one I'm going to get into the Druids and the oak tree. We're going to do one on oak tree symbolism, okay? But for now, we're going to cut this one short, and I just wanted to talk about that for a minute and just provide a little bit of clarity on that. And that's going to do it for this one, and we'll be back later. All right, thanks, guys.